today is Tuesday, and today's project is going to be the 56-inch wide bookcase. We're going to make it with the fluted moldings attached and its back panel attached. The total will be roughly 10¼ inches. These are going to be the two main side walls, and these two side walls will have a adjustable shelving holes. So I'm going to set the panel up now, and we'll cut it, and then we're going to notch the back to accept the 1/2 inch back panel. In this step, I'm going to set the height of the blade at 3/8 of an inch, and that's how far the back panel will go into the wall of the side panel. And then I'm going to bring the fence over for a 1/2 inch cut. And there's 3/8. And we'll bring the fence over. And we'll make this half to the other side of the blade. Right now I'll set it up in the other direction so we can finish our notch cut. Okay, I preset up the table saw and fence along with the blade height, and I'm going to run this side wall panel height-wise, and that will take out the waste piece and leave us with a notch, and that will accept our 1/2 inch back panel. Now in this step, I'm going to trim these side wall panels to 94 inches. Our ceiling is 96, so I need 2 inches to tilt the bookcase under the ceiling and fit it in. So I'm going to trim one end, give me a nice factory edge, and on the other side I'm going to knock off the remaining waste and knock it down to 94. Okay, we have our side panels cut. We have them notched to accept the back panel, which will be a 1/2 inch, and the bottom and the top headers and base. So they will go in there. That's just to give you an idea how it all works. Set this camera up like this. So this will be the base of the project. And this will be, turn around like this, this will be the back panel. It'll work just like that. And that will complete it. Now, before I proceed, before I start assembly, I have to do a series of adjustable shelving holes. So I'm going to start that now. Okay, I have them all drilled, 1/4 inch peg holes for our shelf clips, and everything's coming out really nice. And here I'll have a support shelf. This will be a fixed shelf, and you have to have a fixed shelf in something this high, 8 foot high, just so you don't have any wobble, and it keeps the stability. So everything's coming along real nice, so I think we'll move on to making our base plate. And up here we'll be putting our header in. Okay, since the bookcase is 56 inches wide, and they only make these sheets in 48 inches, and you can't get a 5-foot piece, So what I have to do is I have to join 2 sheets of plywood together so I can gain my 56-inch back panel for this bookcase. So what I had to do here is I had to run a score all the way through here on both sides. And this is the second one, all the way down. And I took my biscuit joiner and I just ran it. And what I'll do is I'll make a biscuit, but it'll just be a long one that will run the entire length. Now, these veneers are very, very thin. They're only like a paper thickness. And if I don't get this exactly right, which is nearly impossible, and then I have to sand it without going through. So, this is what we're working on today. I inserted the long biscuit and it's glued in place and tapped in with a rubber mallet. Now I'm going to glue in this side here and we'll join the 2 pieces together with clamps. I just want to put just a little bit in there because the more that squeezes out, I have to sand off, and then that could wind up going through our veneer. So we don't want that to happen. It's just a little bit. And the biscuit is nice and tight, so a lot of this is going to hold right in. And start it a little bit. When you clamp long pieces like this, there's a lot of pressure and force that needs to be added. Or it seems to be going in nicely. We'll get one on the end here. Bring that in. We'll bring this guy in. All right, now we have our panel gluing up, so we'll let that set for 24 hours. And I think it'll make a nice product, so we'll let that go. Now we might as well continue on and make the bookshelves. So I'm going to cut the bookshelf faces right now. This is a bookshelf face, and it's a 1 3/4 face. So we're going to cut those. We're going to run them on the table saw, and then run them through the joiner, and then the thickness planer, and we'll have our product. Okay, welcome and good morning to another day in the cabinet making shop of Cabinet Makers Custom Building Bookcases.com. Now yesterday, as you remember, we did this sheet, we glued it up with the clamps, and I must say it really came out beautifully. So I don't know if you can tell where that seam is, whether it's on this side or if it's on this side. So let's see here. Of course I know where it's at. It's this line right here. Right there. And it's about the half thickness of a piece of typewriting paper. It really came out well. So we'll sand that down a little bit later because I've been busy with making the fluted molding for the tall bookcases, the 8-foot tall ones. So this is the fluted molding from the 5-foot bookcase, and this has a 5-inch top crown and a 3-inch base. Right now these are a 3 1/8 of an inch, and we're going to run them through the thickness planer and take off both sides, 1/16 on both sides, and knock it down to 3-inch. That is the width of all of our fluted moldings. So let's get to work. Now, sometimes when I make fluted moldings, I'll put stop blocks forward and aft of the table. But in this case, I feel pretty good today. So I have 2 indicator lines here. There's one here for this would be the top or the crown. And then this one is for the base. So this line here, as you can see this line here, what I'll do is I'll bring the molding over and I will slowly lower it on this line, okay? And then I'll run it forward. And what happens is, you get this. Now this top one, this is the test piece. And as you can see here, right here, that this finger of the flute goes beyond this line. But I have to run it through the thickness planer and take a 1/16 off. And once I do that, I'll be right back on this line again. So this is the sample piece up top. And again, this is the top crown part. So this will be the 5-inch piece when I'm done with it. And then come back down here. And then we'll have the 3-inch piece right here. Okay, so I'm going to set the camera up so you can see how I do this on the table saw. Now, as you can see, I have the fence set up and the fluted cutter head. So I'll turn the machine on. And some dust collector. Now here's the line here, and this is the line I want to go after. And this line over here, that'll be for Okay, now I'm going to make the last pass of the fluting for our 3-inch fluted molding. So let's run a piece through and see how it comes out. Start the machine up, dust collection. We have the 2 there. And there's our 3 passes, completing our fluted molding, and I'll run it through the thickness planer, and if there's any tears, well, we look like we did pretty good here, but we'll still take it down. They're a 1/4 inch deep. I like them around 3/16. They look kind of deep right now. All right, I just finished running the fluted molding through the fluting cutter, and now I'm going to run it through the thickness planer and take this down from 3/4 to 11/16. So that will make this out. This will shallow this out a little bit more and take this to 3/16 of an inch. So let's put our machine on. Now what that does, it cleans anything up if there's any chattering from the fluted molding cutter blade. And then what I'll do is I just have to sand this out and round the edges over a little bit. And then they'll be done. Today, what we have here is our fluted moldings, which we've been working on. And they came out very nice. They are freshly sanded with 120 grit, 150, and then into 220. I will finish them with 320 grit sandpaper. Now, as you can see, the bottoms are always have a higher heel or a higher base than the tops. And the tops, this part here, this will be cut off, and this will be 3 inches from the tip of the finger to the top of the fluted molding. Okay, now that's traditional. You'll see that in all front exterior doors. The bottom plate is always higher than the top plate. So this is the way it is done. So we'll have our 5 inches at the bottom. And it's a little bit high here because what's going to happen is, I'll move the tape measure up a little bit, give you an idea exactly what it is. It's 6 1/4. The base, the surbase, will overlap it about an inch or so, and then you'll see the 5 inches revealed. So they're coming along very nice. I'm very happy with them, and these will make a very nice attraction to the bookcases. These will be for the 3 tall ones. There's 3 tall ones in this library. There's the 56-inch one that we have been working on. And then there's going to be a 20-inch, that'll be next to the double doors. And then there'll be a corner one. And these will all be 8 foot, tied in with base moldings and crown moldings at the top. So I'm going to wrap them up tight so they don't wander out of shape. But they come out very nice. Just to give you an idea here what I go through to get a fine finish quality on all the woodwork. Sanding these faces with 120 grit, and then I move up to a 220 grit, and then up to a 320. But this is done before the lacquer or any sanding seals that are sprayed on. Now, that would be going on this small little sander here. Now for aggressive sanding, when I do the tops, okay, I'll be doing a 150 and then moving up to a 220, and that's done with this aggressive sander. So let's get to work here, and I'll show you what goes on and how it's done. So I had to take my time, and there's a little knife mark right here, so I got to polish that out. once I'm happy with that, I'll take the paper off and I'll move up to the next, which is a 220. And this will get it finer. These results you really see after you spray. Before the spraying, you could see it and you could feel it a little bit. Each time you sand with a finer grit, it feels smoother. But the end result is in the finish. It's in the spraying of the lacquer, and that's when these quality finishes show up. When I attach this face to the plank, making our shelf top, I just barely brought up the face above the shelf top. It's just a hair. Right over here it's a little bit more. It's hard to get them exact all the way across. A little bit of glue coming out here. Now I have to take this aggressive sander, but I have to be careful I don't sand through these paper thin veneers. Every year they seem like they make them a little bit thick. Now that's aggressive sanding, and I have to be careful with this. I can feel just a slight little line, and what I'll do is I'll take my smaller sander, which is a more delicate sander, and then I'll just buff that out. So I went aggressively sanding with the 120 grit. Now I'm on my smaller, more delicate sander with the 220. And I'll start beveling this out here. It's coming out nice. That sounds like a good word, beveling it out. Well, I'm sure you know what I mean. Buff it out real nice. Now that feels real nice and true. Okay, I just finished sanding the 56-inch panel for the tall bookcase, if you remember. And if I don't mind saying so myself, let's see if I can find the seam for you. The seam is right here, and I sanded it with the small sander, and I can't feel the line. So that came up real nice. The sheet really came out nice. And it's going to make a nice back panel for our 56-inch wide bookcase.